Hello, everyone. Welcome to Deep Dive. Friday. Who does? Hello, Paul Cutler. See you on this fine Friday. This is the Discord. Hello to Beata over on the YouTube and Yano on Discord. Hopefully we are everywhere. To be real honest, the restream which we use to stream to the different places has a way different interface now, and I don't really understand how it works. Last week I did something and it turned out weird. This week I tried to do something different to make it not turn out weird, and it has turned out weird in a different way. So let me check Twitch real fast. Are we on Twitch? Yeah, we're on Twitch. I don't know what this thing is saying. It's saying we're offline. I don't know how this is supposed to work, so I think we are good everywhere. I'm just gonna leave it alone. Hope for the best, I think. All right. So welcome. Just realized I did not fill my water, which means at some point y'all have to bear with me for a minute while I run and do that. Let's do a quick intro, though, and then maybe I'll do that, get it out of the way. So welcome. First of all, my name is Tim. I go by Foamy Guy on GitHub and Discord. This is a weekly live stream program called The Deep Dive. It is typically done by Scott Shawcroft, the lead developer of CircuitPython. Scott's out for a couple of weeks on parental leave, and so I am filling in, as I do try to do whenever he is not around for Deep Dive. If you are new and haven't watched the streams before, the kind of core concept of this stream is that we are getting into the nitty-gritty of CircuitPython when Scott's around. He's typically working on the cutting edge of whatever is going to be coming up new in CircuitPython as the kind of lead developer of the core. I do not tend to venture quite as deep as him, so we are spending a bit less time in the innards of the core when I'm around, but we do still get rather deep in terms of the coding and programming. This is definitely a relatively long stream at 2 hours, and we're spending a lot of it looking at code and messing with that. So if you are interested in watching people code, then you are in the right place. If you are new and you don't know what we're working on, CircuitPython, this is the main website for the project right here, circuitpython.org. You can head there to learn more if you'd like. Basically, this is a version of Python that runs on tiny computers called microcontrollers. The idea is you will typically plug these microcontrollers into your computer with a USB cable. If you choose to use CircuitPython with them, which is just one of the ways that you can program them, there are others, but if you use CircuitPython, when you plug it in, most typically it's going to show up like a thumb drive on your computer, just a little external storage. On that storage drive, there's a Python code file, which you can then edit with whatever text editor that you like, whether that's just a plain text editing thing by itself, like Notepad, or all the way up to a fully featured IDE. You can save it. Whenever you save it, the microcontroller will recognize that you have modified that file, and it will execute it for you. So the microcontroller actually has a Python interpreter inside of it, a miniature one. It does not support all of the exact same things as quote unquote, big regular Python, but it does implement a lot of the things there. And so it will recognize that the code has changed and it will execute it for you. So that is the 50,000 foot view of CircuitPython, which again is what is typically worked on this stream. Today, we will be diving into not CircuitPython itself, but one of the sort of infrastructure pieces that we have, which is called Adabot, which is a bunch of Python code that does various bits of stuff for us on an automated basis, either once a week or once a day. Adabot generates a lot of our reports that we use during the weekly meetings. It also generates a lot of the information that you can find on circuitpython.org on the contributing page, like the list of open PRs, open issues, and all of these things here. These are generated by Adabot, so we're going to be working on the tool that does that stuff. How's it going? Hello out to Kenneth Curtis over on YouTube. Nice to have you with us, my friend. I'm going to run and make sure the cat is not trying to bust into the garage. I'm going to fill up my water, and then I'm going to be right back, and we will get going into the Adabot code. So BRB 1 second. Okay, guilty as charged. The cat absolutely was trying to break into the garage. So it's a good thing that I went to stop him. Because unfortunately he's not allowed in the garage. Because one time he figured out how to open the garage door by pressing the button. And he ran out, and that was not fun. Okay, we are here. I've got water now. Okay, so our goal inside of Adabot today, Adabot, I just told you about what it does. It generates a bunch of these reports. A lot of the information that Adabot has to pull, it pulls from GitHub. And it uses more specifically the GitHub HTTP API, so it can make requests to GitHub and get data back. Now, GitHub has a rate limit on their API, which is relatively generous. It's like 5,000 requests in an hour, I think, which is quite a lot. But Adabot does compile a lot of stats. It makes a lot of requests, and it looks at a lot of repositories, right? We have 500 libraries, over 500 libraries between the Adafruit bundle and the community bundle. I don't know as though Adabot pulls stats on all the community bundle or not, but essentially we're making multiple requests per repository, per library, out to GitHub. And so, 5,000 in an hour sounds like a lot, but we do, when it runs, we do usually hit that 5,000, and we end up waiting for an hour for that to reset. But sometimes what happens is that it doesn't really reset properly, and then it runs and just kind of dies after several hours. Let's pull up this, and I can show you the actual thing that I am ultimately hoping to solve. So Adabot runs some stuff inside of circuitpython.org. In fact, we can see here today it failed. Yeah, so this is a GitHub action. It's in circuitpython.org, but it's using Adabot to run it. The code that it's actually executing is Adabot. It has a submodule in there that's running Adabot code. And what happens when this fails is that it's like going along, it's making its requests, and then eventually it hits the rate limit, and then it starts to wait, and then it waits for a while, but it starts making more requests, and I think it didn't wait long enough, potentially, or else something weird is going on with it that is causing it to ultimately just stall out and fail. Like if we look at this, it ran, so it started running 12 hours ago, and it failed after 6 hours and 25 seconds. And my guess is that probably GitHub is killing it after 6 hours, and then 25 seconds we kind of get a bit of a rounding there. And so when it succeeds, it tends to take just over an hour. So my kind of hypothesis for when it does succeed, we got 1 hour 5 minutes, 1 hour 4 minutes, 51. So my hypothesis really is like when it succeeds, it uses up its 5,000 requests, it hits its wait limit, it waits for an hour, and then it starts making requests again after that hour is over, and it's actually almost done. So by the time that it actually does hit its limit, it's done most of its work. It only has a few things left. We wait for an hour, the rate limit resets, we do the rest of the work. It only takes a couple more minutes. We get done, everything's done, we're all happy. When it fails, for whatever reason, something goes wrong, it waits an hour, you know, insert question mark here. I don't really know what exactly happens, but it just stalls out. It doesn't end up finishing a couple of minutes after an hour. And the way that I am hoping to address this most immediately is inside of Adabot, we have a lot of code that uses this gh-rex, which if we trace it back up, gh-rex, we trace it back up, not like into this thing necessarily. We will find that this gets imported, Adabot GitHub requests, which I guess is where that took us. And this is basically just a wrapper around requests, where it does have some logic for the timeout. Like maybe it has some caching action going on as well, potentially. So here's our timeout. So there is a bit of logic in here for the timeout. One thing I think we might want to do is like give a little bit of a buffer here. If I downloaded this log, we could take a look at it. One thing I noticed in the log from one of the previous failured runs was that, extract this, was that it seemed to start making requests a little bit early. Okay, so for one thing, this is a 37 meg text file, which is kind of big as far as text goes. So we're going to use this log thing, which is a little bit better at opening massive files. How's it going, Tyeth? Nice to see you, my friend. Is it stalled on one logging whether the request is returning the rate limit info? Recently an issue where some endpoints... yeah, I do remember that issue. I do remember that issue where GitHub, I think they had a problem on their end, or they changed something on their end and it wasn't returning the rate limits. I don't think that that is our problem. In fact, I believe we added code at that time. Which effectively makes that a non-problem because it just assumes... Yeah, right here, in fact. Yeah. I think we just added this when that happened. So basically, we try to get the rate limit remaining, which is how many requests are left before we run out. And if we fail, we just assume that we have requests left. So the way that we fixed that back when it happened is like if they don't return this header, which they were kind of supposed to and they stopped, then we assume we're good, which is maybe not the best thing overall. It kind of, you know, it depends on like why they stopped returning the header, which is something they never should have done. So it's like undefined behavior all the way around, pretty much. You should subscribe to webhook events instead of pulling the API for data. This will help integration with the rate limit. I mean, maybe, but we're not like running a thing all the time. So I don't know if WebSockets is the best. Webhook events. I don't know if events are the best, because we're not trying to like get notified when a thing happens. We're trying to pull a bunch of data and like make a report out of it. All right, I cannot copy links from this thing. I don't understand GitHub. Rate limit is not requested, but added as an HTTP response header. Right, yeah. The rate limit, it comes back from the server. Avoid polling. You should subscribe to webhook instead of polling. Yeah, I mean, the thing about webhooks is you need a server to receive it, and we don't really have a server that's just running all the time, right? Adabot, when it runs inside of actions. The action's only alive for as long as it takes to complete. When it completes successfully, that's about an hour because it waits for the rate limit. If it didn't have to wait, it would probably complete on the order of, more like 5 or 10 minutes, I would assume. I don't actually know, but that's my guess. And so for webhooks, correct me if I'm wrong, but the idea is when certain things happen, then GitHub is going to send a request to your server. So you need a server that's waiting for these post requests or whatever they're going to be to come in and like tell you like, hey, this thing happened, or like, hey, here's some data that you're interested in. I can see how it's like beneficial to cut down on the rate limit, especially from GitHub's perspective. I could see why they'd want people to use that. But in our case, we don't have a server running that can receive those. We have like a one-shot thing. It only lives while it's running. We don't necessarily, I don't think, want infrastructure that has to just be sitting and listening all the time to receive data from GitHub. Like maybe, in a future world, we would like really recraft Adabot altogether to be a server. And then that could make some sense, but I think that would be a much, much, much bigger change than what I'm interested in doing right now. Ask ChatGPT. Okay. So we have this code here, which is kind of wrapping requests and kind of trying to do the rate limit thing. But the thing is that we also have something else. We also have PyGithub. We have this library, PyGithub, and its entire purpose in life is interacting with the GitHub REST API. So we have a couple of little bits of code that are using this PyGithub, is this one here. We have a couple of little bits of code that are using this. And we don't even have any in this file. I think maybe in the validators. Yeah, in the validators, we use it a little bit. So we have some code that's using this thing, which is like PyGithub. It's its own library, which wraps the API. It's pulling data out of the HTTP API, but it's giving it to us within like a Pythonic API. But then the rest of everything we do goes through this GHREX, which is more or less just going straight through requests, although it does have the logic. Another one of the theories here is that because we're using kind of two different things, potentially something's going wrong between them and they're not agreeing on the rate limit or something. So it would be best, I think, if we try to do everything with PyGithub, because PyGithub, as far as I understand it, is supposed to handle the rate limiting for us. And it's nice because we don't have to like maintain our own little bit of code that's kind of like wrapping requests. Instead, we can just use an existing and maintain thing. The downside, though, is that we do have to rewrite a fair amount of stuff, because anything that's using that GitHub requests, it's going to be fetching just raw JSON data and then parsing out whatever it wants. But anything that we want to change to use PyGithub, it's not like, send a request to the server, get JSON, parse what you want. It's more like, in our case, we call it GitHub interface dot whatever, right? Dot repo dot issues or something, right? Like, and then it will just give you an object. So like you don't have to work as hard to parse it, but in our case, it means we need to change over a bunch of stuff. Makes sense, might not be the best option for short to medium. Can you visualize the log data? Might help to see where the errors. So I opened up the log and then I got distracted. So the logs look about like this. So at 1023, it says the rate limit will reset at 1023, right? Like it's the time that it is. Which I find strange. But I suppose there's like probably a seconds component that we're not seeing. I mean, we see 1023.01, but this is 01.96, right? Like we're pretty much at 10:23:02 almost, so it's I don't exactly know why that's like that. But we do see here like 0 requests remaining this hour, pausing. So I think like maybe what happened is, let me think about this. Maybe what happened is we have, maybe the code gets, like it gets stuck in front of what it's waiting for, maybe, right? Like this says rate limit will reset at 10:23:01. I could imagine some logic in the code that says like while current time is less than 10:23:01, don't do anything, right? And then when 10:23:01 comes along, we flip a switch or whatever and we start doing things again. But if it's already in front of 10:23:01, well, we would be looking for times after it. I don't know. Maybe there's some world, though, where we get stuck on the wrong side of it. Like, if we thought it hadn't passed, but it already had, and then we're waiting for it to pass and it never does because it already did. Does that make sense? Maybe something like that's going on. So, I mean, for one thing, we had 0 requests at 10:13:22. So we already have 0 requests here. 0 remaining. We had 3 remaining, and then we made 1, 2, 3 requests. Now we have 0 remaining. We made a request to PyPy, but but like it looks like right here we're starting a request, right? To GitHub. So we already know from back here we don't have requests, but right here, for some reason we did that. I guess it's because 10:23:01 happened. So yeah, we got to 10:23:01, we started making requests, but it wasn't ready yet, it seems like, right? It seems like we still don't actually have any. We get this again. We get a 403. I don't know if it returns a 403 when you rate limit. Okay, but anyway, all that stuff happens. That's all back at 10:23, and then there's just like 5 hours, right? Like 5 hours goes by, we don't do anything. And then eventually my assumption is GitHub Actions has a cleanup crew or whatever, right? If you start your action running and it just stalls, then eventually GitHub kills it because it doesn't just want to run a server forever on your behalf. Yeah, I think maybe that is a good guess. I think probably we're starting too early. What I don't know though is like why does that, or well, okay, I made the leap. Like why does that cause this 5 hours of not doing anything? Maybe there's room for the question of like, does that cause this 5 hours, or are those two separate things? Like, does the fact that we seem to have started making requests before the time was ready, does that ultimately lead to our 5 hour thing, or are those two separate issues? That's one question. But anyway, one of the ways to solve it, hopefully I'm hoping, is use more PyGithub, use less custom implementation wrapping requests. And to that end, basically what we're going to be doing is going through and finding places that use the GH request thing and trying to switch them over. So this one is looking for issues that do not have a milestone. And I actually started this here, and I think, yeah. Okay. So issues, and it's getting no milestone items, and then it's saying no milestone issues item for item in no milestone if pull request not in item. So does this issue not have a milestone and not have a pull request, essentially? It's building a list of all the issues that don't have milestones and don't have pull requests, and then it will print out the number afterwards. Okay, so it is building a list, but ultimately it only really cares about the number. Okay. So we're already doing milestone none. We can maybe just do pull request. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's not a very helpful things. I think that I don't see pull requests in there. So I'm looking some of the code we have here, issue.pull request. I guess we could do the same thing and just check for none. This will print the dir of the first one, print each one, and then print dot pull request. Okay, so let's run that and see what it does. I need to get my token, and in order to do that, I need to be off screen for a second. So let me move this over here and make sure that I'm off screen. Yes, I am. Okay. Token, token, token. I think the way that we do that is this. All right, I have 2 of those. Okay. Okay, so one of these is the dir. We have dir of issues. It's the first one. And then we got total count. That's the total count of... That's the total count of all issues with no milestone, right? Because we did none right there. But we still need to filter out ones with pull requests. And since we can't do that here, we do basically need to loop. And so we are then doing this. They do have a pull request on each issue. And then this is going to be either none or a pull request object. Couldn't there technically be multiple pull requests? Would that be a list? I don't know. Let's not worry about that. We can just check for none, it looks like, though. And that should be what we need. So, I guess I'm gonna maybe just make another number. No milestone, no PR count equals 0. If issue pull request is none, add 1 to that, print that at the end. In the logs, like you said, the check continues until the job is canceled. And use the check on checking to see if the reset has been reached. Okay, so we ended up with 3. Is that the correct number based on the last time the reports actually ran? And what's the easiest way to find that? Boy, I think... I don't actually know where that's at. Top of my head. Okay, I found it. Thought I knew more about where it was at than I thought. Well, but today failed, so does it just output? That's the other thing that's weird. Like, when it fails, we still get a file here. So, like, what's going on with that? Okay, 3. 3 is the correct answer. Which means that I'm gonna make a new branch before I get too far into this. Use pygithub or okay, so we have GH interface, and then what did I do to it here? So we say we have GH interface instead of G, but then git repo, we tell it the repo we want. So core repo, we know it's the core repo in this case. GH interface, git repo, issues. I don't need this anymore. Equals core repo.get issues with no milestones. And then so before it was like filtering the list. I guess we could do that. We're not looping it again though. So I'm kind of inclined to just do it like I did over here and just make a count, right? Kind of just more the way my brain works. So we have a number, we do loop it, but we just say if issue dot pull request none, add that, get to here, we print it like that. Package is not required. Okay, one other thing we want to do also is actually update that, which I think I may have done. So this, yeah, I have 250, which is the newest one, which we do want to make sure all this stuff works on the newest one, because that's another thing that I would like to do is update it to be using the newest one. Okay. All right, so that should work. Not sure how easy it is to pull out like just this. How many requests it would use. Another thing we do have is this kind of thing where we are like, we're getting files out of GitHub, but we're doing it through a request. I have no idea if that uses, like, it's not to the API because it's to raw GitHub content, right? But I don't know if that's using up one of the rate limits or not. Ultimately, I would love to get away from this send a request to download a file and instead, like, let's just clone the repos we need. Like, in this case, it's the community bundle. We could clone that and then we'll have the file. I guess maybe community bundle is an odd one out. Maybe we don't want to clone it, but like for the Adafruit bundle, for instance, if we would clone the Adafruit bundle and sync all the submodules, then we would have all the library code. And then further down in this stuff, like inside of validators, one of the things that it's doing in here is downloading a lot of files from each repo. Anyway, I don't know where they're all at, but there's only 3 in here, actually. I'm pretty sure there's more of these, though, where we are downloading, like, we're downloading the README, we're downloading the read the docs config, we're downloading, like, a few, like, a handful of others. And if we would clone the repo instead, we could just get rid of all those requests. But I don't know if those count. You know, maybe those don't count. One in here, actually, too. I don't know where I found that. I swear I found some code where it was getting a lot more of those. But let's go one at a time for now. I would love a way to, like, tell if it's good or not. Can we just return here and then run this? So I think way to get this to run. I think that update CPU org libraries. It's not. Org libraries. So does this import from CircuitPython libraries? Python library. Git run? That's come. This is used only by tests, seemingly. Maybe we're going the wrong direction. I swear this thing that gets used, but it's not. But I mean, this is definitely what's generating the report. I think this is definitely okay. We have reports, but this is an Adabot, not CircuitPython org. This runs libraries. Reports? Okay. I mean, so this succeeds. Run reports, this succeeds, and it succeeds in about 10 minutes. Libraries takes almost 4 minutes, and then actually Arduino takes longer at 6 minutes. And this is succeeding. Okay. So specifically in CircuitPython org, it uses update CPUorg libraries, not CircuitPython libraries. So the thing that I changed was in CircuitPython libraries. Technically, that is not... I mean, ultimately, we want to do it all over the place if we can, but that's not going to affect our thing that's failing. So let's go into update CPUorg libraries, and then let's look in here specifically for GHREX. The other thing that I didn't do before I started, which I should have, is go to the bathroom. But unfortunately, I take another quick pause here. BRB, and then we'll keep going. Got me curious, maybe print the headers from raw GitHub. Yeah, we could do that. Okay. Also, let me run the one we changed and make sure that it outputs 3. And then we also need to take the return out of it because I added a return. Before I forget to do that, because that will definitely break it. So I added this right here. Let's run this, make sure it outputs 3, and then hopefully stops. Adabot.circuitpython. Is this? No, okay. -m. Hopefully we're not gonna use too many requests. I've already used 100. I'm gonna bail on this. If it goes down to 4,800, I'm gonna bail. So I don't want to use that many. Kind of need them for testing. I'm just gonna bail now. I didn't really think it was, I thought it was not gonna need to do that many. Let's just take the return out and then we'll worry about that later. I think this one is fine, but okay. So when you run this, what is the first thing it does? sure what that's doing. Somehow trying to make us not request the same things again, but I'm not sure. I thought did I not just do this? Does that not mean don't do pop-ups anymore? I thought, wouldn't that be anyway? Problem. This new or updated does start calling requests already. So that looks like, to my eye, what would be essentially the first request to the API using GHREX. Except, well, no, that's not a request. Maybe list repos. Yeah, list repos, actually. Okay. Return a list of all Adafruit repositories that start with Adafruit or CircuitPython. Each list item is a dictionary of GitHub API repository state. Okay, so we end up with a list. We need to make sure, though, that our new code is going to basically give us the same thing. So we just sort of need to be able to see the list, I think. And to that end, I think what we're going to do is return after that and just go print repos, but also I would like to with open dump that, see what's in it, and then that should return. So we should really only be making like one, I mean, it's per page, so maybe it's maybe we make more requests. Yeah, we make more requests because of the per page. So we are going to get like 100, like however many repos fit this thing minus or divided by 100. We're going to have to make that many requests. Maybe we should print. Maybe we should rec count 0 rec 1. I do find this a bit odd. We search for this, but then we still go back and say like, is owner Adafruit, but is that not gonna, isn't that gonna do the same thing? And then we also say and name starts with this. I guess that's not strict to starts with. Or repo is CircuitPython. This is going to give you all the libraries and the core, I think. Then we get names. Then we're getting the core. Wouldn't we have already? Oh. Oh, I should do a +1. I didn't copy all the stuff. What? What? Okay, so we'll print that and we will dump it to a JSON file so that we can compare after we switch it to use GitHub. So let me call this. It returns like right after it does list repos, so hopefully we will not use that many requests. Made 1. Have made 3, 4, 5. Printed, dumped to here. Okay. Doesn't want to format. Oh. Say it doesn't want to format because it's very big, but it did eventually get there. So we just have a list of objects. Each object is a repo. Each repo has a lot of stuff about the repo. So inside of GitHub, how can we list repos? What if you search for all open issues and PRs from the Adafruit org and ignore the results from non-CircuitPython? Basically try to create an API call with that search query. Is open org Adafruit created descendant? Instead of like searching each repo independently, it probably could work that way, but ultimately they need to be tied to each repository anyway, because they get listed on the page, like all the ones for each repository get listed with that repository. Probably it could work though to fetch them as issues and then sort them out later rather than loop over repos and ultimately search issues repo. That is possible. May cut down on them. Probably. In fact, it should cut down on them because we would end up with not one per library, but instead just a function of how many pages it is, right? Like the same thing we had a minute ago, whereas we were fetching pages of 100, we ended up making 4 or 5 or whatever. We'd probably have to do maybe 8 or 10 for issues, but then we'd have all the issues. We could loop over them later and sort them into the repos, and then we would have only made 8 or 10. I just pulled those numbers out of the air, but probably it's not 350 or whatever it is when we do 1 per repo. That's something to think of. That's something to think about for sure. I don't know that I'm specifically weird. I don't know why this is pausing. I don't know that I'm specifically looking to change the logic around quite that much. I mostly want to like hyper specifically replace things that are using GHREX with GitHub, and then try it after that's done and see if it continues to fail or not. And if it does, then start looking at kind of re-engineering Adabot. I will say Adabot is open source, and we're always happy for PRs though. So if somebody else is interested in kind of refactoring the logic to change the way the requests work to minimize them, I'd be happy to review for sure. Right, docs. And then we want to get a list of, yeah, this is kind of not very useful. Is there like, This is like getting stuff about a repository. So this one here was talking about searching repositories. It does say search repositories query. So presumably we'd get all the same things, but we don't need all of this, right? Like, I think we don't care about that stuff anymore. It's query sort updated. I don't think we care about the order necessarily either. I'm gonna loop over it and do stuff with it anyway. I know. So we already have a repos, so we need to be careful because that's repos there. I guess we can just use that though, right? I mean, let's see why not. Leave it like that and go down here. Doesn't matter, but oh, we don't have a GH interface here. GH interface here either. So we need that in here. This is the wrong. Although we're gonna need it in that file too, actually. Go put it here. We do have actually sort and order, so we can pass both of those. I don't think it really matters, but okay, I'm gonna change the file that this dumps to. That. Otherwise, we're gonna just run it again. It's gonna get the list, and I don't know if it's gonna fail because it's trying to look at like owner login. I don't know if all this is gonna be the exact same. Okay, well, first of all, we don't have a result okay. We're gonna have a result next. Honestly, we don't need any of this, I think, because it's gonna handle the pages for us, I'm pretty sure. Although we do have the problem of this was checking this stuff. Okay, maybe we should do searched repos. Print out this stuff. Or go in searched repos. So if repo owner login is Adafruit and repo name starts with that, or name is circuitpython. And if all of that's true, then repos .append repo. So at the end, we'll have repos, which will have all the same stuff that it would have had here. Long as all of these things actually work the same. And I did change the file name, so we'll be able to compare this to the other file. We're printing it as well, so technically we could try to compare to the print, but it's kind of a lot of stuff. Repository is not subscriptable. Okay, so right off the bat, that doesn't work. So we're going to need to dir that and figure out how to get the things we care about off of it. We care about owner login. Let's just print dir repo. Run that again. And then, okay, we want, wow, there's so many things. Okay, so we want owner login. Maybe the reference would be helpful here. API repository or /APIs. Class GitHub about repository. What does search repositories return? Search repository. Done it. Okay, this returns a paginated list of repositories. So, GitHub object. Okay, does it have owner? Does, which is a named user. Okay, those ones are clickable. That's good. Named user. Does that have a login or? It's like nothing useful. How do you get the name of it? Yeah, I shouldn't say it has nothing useful. It has a lot of stuff that could be useful, but like it's called a named user. You can't get the name. Am I crazy? Get events, get followers, get following, the gists, get the keys, get the orgs, get the projects, get the public events, get the received events, get the public received events, the regular received events, the repo, the repos, starred, subscriptions, watched, has in following, organization membership. None of those are name, but it's a named user. How is it a named user if you can't get the name? Okay. Maybe there's stuff it's not showing? Let's try print. something in between so we know which one is which, and then dir repo owner. Okay, there is a lot of stuff that's not listed here, right? This was only functions, right? These are all get something. None of these are properties, but we have a lot of stuff. Like I just saw, so many of these have underscores, like collaborators, company, blog, bio. None of those are in here, and those are just properties. They don't have, like, it's not get blog, it's just blog. Name. Totally has name. Okay, so just owner, so dot owner dot name. Is there a login? Login instead of name? There is login. Let's use it. Okay. So maybe a lot of this will just be change the square brackets to dots. That would actually be pretty sweet if it works like that. Name. It's already going and doing a core rec here. I'm just going to leave that for now. Let's work on one at a time. If include repos, but this defaults to none. And we are calling it here. We are actually passing include repos. Okay, but that's just going to add like 2 requests, basically, 1 per, because we gave it 2 more things to fetch. That's fine. Let's leave that for now, though. Okay, so let's see if we end up with data that looks roughly the same. Or if it even runs. Okay, it's running. Printing. We should turn off the print dirs, actually. That's going to print a lot of or it's going to print a lot of things because we did it inside of this loop, which is like, yeah, that's going to slow it way down. Let's not do that. Okay. Unfortunately, that went too far, so we can't actually see the beginning. So we made it up to where? We made it up to trying to dump it. We can't dump it. Repository is not JSON serializable. So basically, that's going to make this a little bit tougher to know. I mean, so far, we've been able to just replace square bracket access with dots. For now, I'm going to try to just assume that that's all that we will have to do anywhere. So we won't dump this. Don't really need to bother printing it because it's so big we can't do anything with it anyway. Yeah, wouldn't need to return here anymore. Got our list of repos. It did look like that took about 10 or so requests. Maybe if, since we're no longer printing this, maybe we could actually see. Interesting that it actually showed those. I don't know why it showed those. Kind of useful though. Like, I'm not sure why it's showing each of these. I guess it's got, I guess it just does that for you. There's like debug true or something. Yeah, so it makes 13 requests in order to get through all the pages. So there's about 1,300 repos, presumably. How does the rate limit reset work though? Because we wait for an hour. Is that like an hour from the first request and then they all replenish? Or is it like a rolling 1 hour from each request that you made? Or is it 5,000 for every clock hour? Like it doesn't matter. Like you could make 5,000 at 9:50 and then in 10 minutes it resets because it's 10. Is that? I don't know how that works. I mean, it can't. I don't think it can be that because it's only 12 after and we're already down to 300 or whatever, which that's basically from the 100 that we did earlier before I stopped it. Okay. It does get us into... Okay, so a lot of stuff will happen here inside of the validator. We do have a couple more still before that. I'm just gonna take this out. It doesn't work anyway, I guess. Okay. Bundle submodules. So that one is hitting so that one, well, it's not using GH requests actually. It's just using requests. And to your point earlier, I think it was Tyeth maybe said, let's print the headers, result, headers, bundle submodules. So this is git bundle submodules, headers, result. That's not an F string. Okay, and I turned off the other prints, so I don't, hope it's not going to print that much stuff this time. We are going to get these 13. But yeah, this is nice though, because like now the code doesn't have to care about the pagination, right? Like the code also gets less complex. We don't need that while true or while result okay, whatever, right? Like one handles it for us, which is super nice. Okay, so here's our headers. It does not look like it has no X rate limit anything. And that's the thing, right? X rate limit. Yeah. And I think they all start that way. Like there's X rate limit request, there's also X rate limit remaining. So that does not return any. So let's presume that it doesn't use any. That would be janky if it cost one but didn't actually give you the headers. But maybe. Hopefully not. I mean, it's a different server, so it'd be a pain in the ass for them to maybe make it actually subtract. I don't know. I mean, in that case, we don't really need to mess with this one, I guess. I would love to get away from this fetching files via requests and just clone instead. Especially for the bundle, like, because once we clone the bundle, if we also get all the submodules, then we have all the libraries, which means later on when we want to do effectively the same thing where we're making these requests to fetch files, we won't need to do that. We'll just already have them. But let's not do that just yet. Let's focus mostly on the GH requests, which this one's not doing, so let's leave that for now. Validator, it's gonna set up, I don't know, why would the bundle submodules need to go into the validator? That's kind of odd, but okay. They just pylint, so we're not actually We're checking that this way. Interesting. Okay. Okay, so then we get into our loop here and we start validating. And presumably this is where we fail at this point. Yeah. Right inside the loop, because we went and said square brackets name, but now it doesn't work that way. It would be dot name. Realistically, we're going to need to find all the repo square brackets. And we might as well actually do repo square brackets open quote, replace it with repo dot. We'll have to go back and fix the closing quotes as well. Still in the same loop, right? Yeah. HTML URL. It has that. I wish we could JSON dump it. It looked like it printed fine, but it just didn't want to. I guess I could print the one that's not JSON. Be a pain to get it to like. Okay. Oh, this one is a single quote because it's inside of a string. Okay, is build JSON, is this in the loop or this is outside the loop? Okay. But validator is in here and validator is going to do a lot more stuff. And probably start failing. Let me change this temporarily to I repo in enumerate. And let's, I mean, it's going to crash inside the validator. Good, I think. If I is greater than 0, break. I want it to definitely break out if it doesn't fail. Because I don't want it to start validating every library and using up a bunch of requests, because we need our requests to test, basically. Not worth it for 5 replaces, but that kind of find replace is one of those things I love regex. Yeah, true. Regex is one of the things I'm trying to be better about using when the time comes. Sure. FFmpeg is another one. It's a completely different thing, but I'm trying to be better at, like, whenever I have video operations, instead of trying to search for like video converters and video screen grabbers and all this stuff, like I'm just trying to, I know FFmpeg does this, I just need to figure out the right command, right? So trying to be better at looking up those commands and trying to use them. Similar thing for regex with me, where I'm like, I know regex can do this, I just don't know enough regex to be able to do it myself, so I should go look instead of searching for an alternative. All right, let's see where this fails. I think it should fail inside the first validator, and I guess it will break if it does somehow succeed, but I don't think it should. I do need to run to the restroom though, so I'll be right back again. BRB. Okay. Yes, failed inside of not validating. Is new or updated. Okay. That's a double whammy right there. It's trying to use the square brackets and it's trying to feed them into another GHREX. I wonder if we can just go repo.releases. And that's before, that must be before the validator. Yeah. Okay. Validator's not until all the way down here. Is new or updated, takes the repo. Today -7. First check the latest release to see if it's within the last 7 days. Let's print dir repo. Let's just try print repo dot release or releases. Releases URL. That might be the URL we need, so we don't need to compile it again. Like this is appending the URL to, but I mean, we don't need the URL at all, right? Because we're going to try to make an API request. Although that is the only thing that starts with release. So not necessarily seem like we're going to be getting just like release objects. Probably what we're going to want to do is go and say something like repo dot get releases or something. So we have the opposite problem here. So in named user, we only get functions, right? Get this, get this, get this, get this. These are all functions. In repository, we only get properties. Bool, bool, string, int, string, 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 string. But we don't have any like get. Oh, we do. I'm lying. Okay, never mind. But not enough, right? There's only 2. Oh, there's 99. What order are they in? Oh, not it. Okay, that's target. Secrets. Are we still in repository? Is this whole page repository? Guess so. It is. Okay, but it's just not in alphabetical order. So is there a get release? There is a get releases. Awesome. Okay. So that's what we want. And then you would assume that it's like in some order sending, hopefully, right? There is actually get release as well. Oh, but that takes an ID though. You don't want that. We want to find, oh, there's get latest release. That's what we're looking for. That's exactly what we're looking for. Right? Because that's going to say releases latest and then info published at. This seems like it should return multiples though, shouldn't it? Okay, I also have this set up to be able to make test. No, this is a different thing. This is to the raw. I think I was trying. No, but that's not the headers. Okay, never mind. Just put that back like that. Resp equals requests. It's actually a bit of a pain, isn't it? We need to be here and get the right URL for the API, which I don't know if I'm. Let's do it. Ending the stuff into slash repos Adafruit name. Just gonna do circuitpython on releases latest. So does this return a single release or multiples? That's interesting. Oh, why are those added, by the way? Those shouldn't be added. I just mindlessly clicked that. I don't really know what that means. But apparently I'm not allowed to do that. Is that gonna delete the file? No. Okay, that's what we want. This should be red now. Yes, okay. So now JSON is here. Do we have multiple releases? No, we have a single release. So slash latest makes it so we get the latest one. Okay, so it's slash releases, but then it's slash latest, which modifies it to be a single release. Chat disconnected and reconnected. I don't know if internet died on us there or what, but it's a perfect example. Both ffmpeg and regex are used fantastically when used well or at the right moment. Yeah, they both have a weird situation that once you've mastered enough of either of them, you desire to shoehorn it into every situation grows uncontrolled. It's definitely true. There's I watched a video recently about finding primes with regex. It's got this like insane logic of how it does it. Crazy. It's a stand-up maths, if anyone's interested on YouTube. If you search for stand-up maths regex primes, you'll probably find it. Prime numbers. So we should presumably be able to just get the latest release by saying repo.get latest release. And then I don't think we need to do this. I guess, would it be none if I don't know what it would do if it failed. Guess it would either be none or raise an exception. Hopefully it would raise an exception, to be honest. I don't know. Hopefully it would raise an exception, but we don't have a result, so we can't really do that. We're not gonna have a result. Release info, we don't need that because we have latest release. Latest release published at, it should have a published at. Print that while before we do that, let's also, this is another one I can't, oh, but I can click here. Okay, hit release. So we wanted a published at. Public. Okay, but we have another thing here where there's like almost nothing and there's only functions. So are there actually more stuff? So let's print that. Let's also print dir of that. This thing again so we can know what's what. I swear these docs are not showing me everything though. Yeah, it's gonna crash when it gets to, it might not even run, honestly. I don't even know if it's gonna run. Okay. It's definitely gonna crash when it gets to here. That's fine. These two prints are the only thing we really care about. Yeah, look at... Oh. Different stuff. Hold on. Wait, what? Did we not make it there? Okay. Okay. I found. Okay. So... yeah, we didn't make it all the way there. This is dir repo. So this has our git latest request in it somewhere. And our releases URL, which was this, which is odd. I don't know about the ID thing, but it doesn't really matter. We're not actually going to use the URL. But then we called get latest release, and it sent a request to here, and it got 404. Is this just a library without a release yet? Just be a library without a release. Yeah, it doesn't have a release. Okay, so we get 404. Oh, well, it gets 404 and it raises a GitHub exception. Unknown object. I guess... what does it do the other way? Why do we... I guess... How was that filtering that out before, though, right? Because... status code. So do we get a 200, but just we get an empty... get a 404? Get it an error. And so then I guess it would have bailed here. So it would have done release info is result.json, which we just saw that is the error. Wherever it went. Right here, this thing. So technically it would have put that into release info. It would have looked for publish at, it wouldn't have had it, and then it would have returned none. Okay. So we can wrap this, catch a GitHub exception. Well, GitHub exception, we can catch specifically the unknown object. Oh, can't find that because well, but I have two I don't know how this works. So if that happens, we want to just return none. That's what it was doing. Let me also print caught unknown object 404. We know that it happened. And let's see if we now print those things and get to here and fail. You know, one thing we don't get to see anymore is the rate limits. I mean, I'd be in danger of getting near 5,000. Doing 12 per run right now. Well, we're doing a little bit more than 12, I guess. Actually, we can see some here because of the other prints. 4780. So, no, we still didn't make it. We got the exact same thing. The catch doesn't work. Not sure why we would not have caught that. Guess we can get rid of that part. Like it's not finding it. But presumably there are different kinds of GitHub exceptions. Presumably we might want to treat some of them differently. Seems unsafe to just catch them all. Okay. Okay. Yeah, now we made it past here. We can turn these off for now. But, okay, and then we return none, so we didn't even really make it to here. So we don't actually get to see. Boy, that's a little bit annoying. We have to step back because the first one in the list does not have any releases, therefore we can't really test the rest of this because the rest of this only happens if there was a release. Pretty much have to go back to here, start working the rest of the way down, because that's going to keep going with MC whatever, MFRC is going to keep going since it didn't have any releases. So now it made it into open issues. Get open issues and PRs, where it tried to say repo name, but the only reason it's doing repo name is to make a URL to fetch issues, which I think we should be able to just say like get issues. And we can pass state and do some stuff just like that. Okay, so we used to have result. Now we're gonna have open issues. We already have that? Oh, we do. Shoot. An empty list. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Issues. I'll just say issues response, even though it's not really response at this point, but whatever. Issues response is repo.get issues state equals open. You don't need to pass params like that anymore. Yeah, the rest of the URL we don't care about because it's inside the function now. I guess we could try catch and just return empty empty. Wow. Using all buttons. by github.github exception. I don't know why we can't do the one underneath that. So then it says issues is result.json. Don't need because we're not parsing the JSON ourselves. It says for issue in issues, which ours is this. And weird because it's gonna say it's fine. Okay. And then presumably it's gonna be like that. Labels? Sure about that one. Paginated list of issues. Get labels. But yeah, because we're on the issue, right? Get labels. Maybe get labels. Looks like there is no labels, just get labels. So issue.get labels, that's a function. That's not equal to 0, then labels equals label and issue labels. It's kind of doing this multiple times. Let's say but we already have issue labels. That's annoying. I don't like how we're ending up with like multiple variables basically storing the same thing. So we have issue labels, which is starts out as a list containing the string none, and then we set it to a new list here equal to the names of each label that we find in get labels. I don't know. It's awkward to have that, and then we're just making a list anyway. For label, and then that would be label.name. So an issue dict has the title. We got has the URL is this. Hopefully, is that a thing? No, that's not a thing because we're on issue. HTML anything. URL anything. Uh-oh. I don't know. For issue and issues, let's go. This is print. I wish I could just really get this. I mean, I guess let's just kill it, I suppose. And it's gonna, but there's not gonna be any issues anyway on this one, so it's like, I'm tempted to make a fake issue. This thing is like 2 years old. It doesn't have any code in it. It's not even a real thing. I'm tempted to just make an issue to test with. And we know we're doing labels, so I'm going to give it a bug and a good first issue for now. Or maybe a bug and a help wanted. Bug and a... Okay. I almost just wish if these objects would have like a to JSON or something, I wish they would just have a way to dump to JSON, and then we could effectively like not really need to change much of this at all. But because we need to access them through dots, means we're gonna have to change a lot of code, honestly. Okay, so for releases, we caught the 404. For issues, we did not correctly use enumerate. It's like... All right, we made it further. Strip time. So created issue. So okay. So we got a date. So we don't have a. So that's one of the goods. One of the positives of not having JSON is our dates are actual date objects, not strings. So this code is trying to parse a date object out of a string. We don't actually need to do that because we already have a date object. We should have printed. Yeah. Okay. Okay, that's not very helpful by itself. Just the print, it gives us the title and it gives us the number. But we do have a nice dir here, which has got all kinds of stuff. We did find get labels already. Created is actually just issue. I think this should just be created at. Yeah, created at. I don't think we need to strip time for any of this anymore. It has days open earlier today, so that one will be today. Pull request. It's getting the labels. Okay, so let's give that a try again. Might be nice to try to cache the results of these locally and then just read them, but then we're like testing the code exactly anymore. Offset. So that's not working because of them's naive and one of them's not. I don't know which one though. How do we find out which one? Print created print day. Okay. And see which one doesn't have a time zone. Second one. Today doesn't have a time zone. How do you get a time zone aware to today? On time zone aware today. I don't know. Presumably I want the same time zone, which this one is in my time zone. No, it's not. Cannot read. This is in UTC. Okay, that's actually easy then, I guess. We could just do the UTC one. I saw the 5+, and my time zone is sometimes +5, but other times +6. Yay, daylight savings. And I thought that that was my time zone, but it's not actually. It's +0. So we should just use this said probably, except the I'm just gonna do it, I guess, this way. Now, but can we pass last week time zone to that? But we don't really. I mean, is it okay that we get now, like literally now, with the hours and the minutes and stuff too, instead of just today as in the date? I would like to just get today the date. Is there a datetime.date.now? That's what today would be. So why is there no time zone for today? How come you can't pass a time zone to this? Because the day doesn't matter for the time zone? But that's not true, because the day changes based on the time zone. Like today in UTC time zone, the date can be different than today in a different time zone, my time zone, depending on what time of day it is. So why can't you fetch a today in a time zone? Does that actually matter? I guess, so it's calling now and then it's saying date. Okay, so I guess that's what we'll do. Gotta install that too. Shoot. We have it already? So now, date, time not now. Shed the time by just saying date. Let's make sure that prints right. This is still gonna fail on the line after, but let's make sure that it prints the same thing. I'm awful at Python, but I thought daytime was time zone unaware and always used local system time unless you ask. I think it has changed some in recent years, but I honestly, I don't know. I try to, personally, I typically try to avoid the problem entirely by always operating on UTC whenever I can, and then just never caring about other time zones, but that doesn't always work out. In this case, it looks like it's fine though, because we are doing UTC anyway. But date times, they can be aware if you pass stuff into them. Like you could give it a different. Well, in fact, we're giving it UTC, which is not my system time, so it is different in this case. I think this might be a newer thing though. I don't know how long you've been able to like make them aware or whatever. And my whole knowledge of it is intermixed with Django, which has its own sort of time zone thing going on also. So like a lot of my knowledge is truthfully from Django more than Python directly, but it kind of applies because Django has Python underneath it, so it's kind of just propagating that stuff up to me. I did hear of some change. We got confused about when, got confused when trying to implement IO, CircuitPython plus Python with time zones. Yeah, generally avoid. Yeah, that's my plan. Anytime that I can, I will. Okay, so that did print correct, so I think we can take this and use it for this. That should give us the number of days open. And then it's doing some delta, and then it's doing some title, and then it's some other stuff. So let's run it and see what happens. And it's about time to wrap it up for the night. Usually run for about 2 hours, which is where we're getting pretty close to now. If anyone has questions, comments, anything you would like to say to me or anyone watching, now is the time to do that in the chat. No, it still failed. You can't minus a date and a date time. How was it doing it before? It was getting 2 dates before. Why was it getting 2 dates though? Because it was date time dot strip time, so it's getting a date time from this. Is created not a date time? Created as a date time. Isn't it? And it has to be a date time because it has time. And this had to be creating a date time because it says datetime.datetime.strip time. So created always was a date time. Today used to be different, but I changed it. What did it say before? Okay, it used to say datetime.datetime.today, not .date. I think I changed it to datetime.date.today and then thought that that's what it was supposed to be. So we do not need to do that. I mean, but it was today though. Datetime.datetime.today. What does that return? Returns a datetime object, which is a datetime object, not a date. Okay. So I messed it up by turning it. I messed it up by turning it into .date. And then I used .date to try to account for that when I shouldn't have. So does this, so is this, what time does this give you? Gives you the current time. 18:01:44 it was when I ran it. Okay. Okay. So we don't want .date. We just do without. How did I get that in them? I'm surprised. I don't know how I would have changed that to .date randomly. Watch this. Watch the VOD maybe. Okay. You should get slightly farther if this is fixed correctly. Let's see here. For anyone interested, I'll be back in the morning tomorrow. Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. Central Time. I usually stream over on my own channel, working on some CircuitPython stuff. I think tomorrow we will be working on some Raspberry Pi things. So if you're interested in that, you can come by in the morning. I usually drop links when I get started in the live broadcast chat, so I'll link out to my Twitch and my YouTube there. I don't pre-set up the links, so like I can't really give you the link today and then you can just wait for it. That doesn't... I mean, you could do that on Twitch, but not YouTube. I don't set them up that way. But I drop the links in the chat when I get started. So if you're interested, I'll be around in the morning. Come say hi. Do the old coffee cheers action. I should be finishing my coffee. Okay. Yeah, we totally did. We totally did make it further. Yeah. We made it all the way to here where we, again, effectively tried to square bracket access issue, which we can't do. It's not technically a square bracket because it's like there's no square brackets, but it's saying if that is in that, which is using the same dunder thing as the square brackets, I'm pretty sure. So it's effectively doing that. Ignore pull requests. Interesting. So this seems like... This seems like this API also returns PRs? Is that true? Or is it not returning PR? Is this actually saying this issue is linked with a PR? I'm not sure if that's saying this issue is linked with the PR, or if it's saying like this issue object actually represents a PR. It's not even an issue, it is a PR. Maybe does GitHub treat them the same? I have noticed like the numbers count for both, right? Like if you have issue number 3 and then you open a PR, it'll be PR number 4. So they each have the same namespace of IDs or ID space. Maybe they're actually the same kind of object. I don't know. Maybe the front end makes the distinction between pull requests and issues, not the back end. I don't know. That's kind of what this code makes it seem like, though, because it's checking, like, is it a pull request or not? Well, I mean, it's checking if it has a pull request. So that makes it seem like it's checking if it has a pull request, whereas here we're appending it into a different list, which makes it seem like it is a pull request that we have now added to the list of open pull requests. And I'm not sure which one's actually true. So we'll have to figure that out next time. We made it quite a bit further, kind of. Let's look at one more thing, which is the docs again for issue as pull request. As pull request? Repo's owner, repo pull number? What does that mean? Okay, so we have issue number 3. And this is basically saying that you could just change issue pulls, but keep the number 3. That does not really give you anything useful. I mean, on the front end, I guess. as pull requests. I don't know what that. I don't know what that does. Labels, edit, lock, unlock. That's the only match. But we printed dir? Did we get anything more interesting in dir? Pull request. That's dir issue. Yeah, one thing is I don't understand why I don't get the docs here. Issue, it's got like some things listed, but there's clearly way more here that are not listed. I guess you're just supposed to know those ones exist. I don't know how you're supposed to. But there is a pull request. What is that though? Can't learn from the docs, unfortunately. Okay, let me add one more print. Print issue.pull request, and let's add this PR. Print dir to PR. I'm glad that Python has dir. I will say, like, it's a little weird the docs don't seem to contain everything, but it's really nice that Python has a way to just like explore the API yourself, essentially. It's kind of painful to just be printing dirs all the time and stuff, I will admit, but all right, so that was none, and then obviously dir of none doesn't have anything useful on it. So we would need to find one. We would have to find one where that's true, I guess. Yeah, we'd have to find one where that's true in order to tell what stuff it has. Okay. Well, we replaced a couple. We learned a lot about how this works. We made it sort of. I'm going to commit what I have. It's obviously like half broken, not really working, has a crap load of extra prints and stuff, but I'll just say WIP, work in progress. Broken, still, WIP. Pull request. Ono says, REST API considers every pull request an issue, but not every issue a pull request. For this reason, issues endpoint may return both. Straight on. No, that doubles it up for you all, but it's easier for me to read. So it can set, yeah, thank you for finding this, by the way. I appreciate it. GitHub's REST API considers every pull request an issue, but not every issue is a pull request. For this reason, issues endpoints may return both issues and pull requests in the response. You can identify pull requests by the pull request key. Be aware that the ID of a pull request returned from the issues endpoint will be an issue ID. To find out the pull request ID, use the list pull requests endpoint. Okay. Yes. Thank you. Oh no, by the way, I appreciate you looking this up. So yes, essentially under the hood, they are one and the same. The actual mechanism of it is that pull requests are issues. The pull requests are issues. Therefore, when you hit the issues API, you will get back issues and PRs, which is why this code is checking which one it is. So we do know now that this is checking what it is. It's not checking what it's linked to. So we're not trying to say, does this issue have a PR? We are, in fact, trying to say, is this issue a PR? Okay. I'll probably also open up a fake PR on this. Now that we know this is, like, I don't know why this is the first one. Like, it's not alphabetical. I don't know what order it's going in. Now that we know this is the one we're hitting, assuming we always start with the same one, so assuming the order is actually set, I'll probably open a fake PR as well so that we can test some of this stuff at some point. Okay. Yes. Huge thanks for looking that up and dropping it in here. Appreciate it. I will, like I said, I'll be back in the morning tomorrow, 10 a.m. Central Time. We are one of those rare occasions where we have to deal with the time zone since I am streaming in Central Time. So 10 a.m. Central Time, I will be back. I'll drop some links in the chat when I get started. I appreciate everyone watching. I hope you all have a good rest of your Friday. As always, let's us say thanks to Adafruit. I don't think I mentioned it at the beginning, so let's do it now. So CircuitPython, everything we've been working on is open source. CircuitPython is an open source project. Anyone's allowed to use CircuitPython on their own microcontrollers. Anyone who makes microcontrollers is allowed to make CircuitPython work on their microcontroller. You don't have to pay anyone to do that. All the code and everything is available. Everything you need to be able to add support to CircuitPython for your custom hardware is out there. And no one has to pay for it, which is awesome. The way that works is Adafruit pays the people who work on it, right? There's a team of developers who are working on this stuff. Adafruit's paying them to do so, including myself and Scott, who's usually on this stream. If you want to help support CircuitPython, one of the easiest ways you can do it is just purchase hardware from Adafruit. They have the microcontrollers themselves, which run CircuitPython, lots of them. They also have every kind of imaginable doodad that you can connect to your microcontroller to do stuff with. So head over there, get yourself some toys, have fun with them. Thank you for supporting them so they can support us and the project. Thank you to everybody for watching. I will see you later.